You should be seeing the presentation, the first page of it at least. So this is the fiscal year 2022 budget that we'll be talking about for the year that begins July 1st, 2021 and runs through June 30th, 2022. Couple highlights from the budget. The proposed property tax rate of $14.3123 per thousand of taxable value is unchanged from fiscal year 21, the current year. Prior to that, it was $13.5277 per thousand of taxable value for about 10 years in a row. So again, this is the second year at the 14.3 rate. The chief goals of the city in doing our budgeting each year are to pass a balanced budget, maintain property tax rate when possible, in other words, not raise it unless it's absolutely necessary, maintain sufficient fund balances, and provide high-quality public services. The challenges in most years include generally rising costs for budgets, making sure we're planning for future needs. For the current year and the coming fiscal year, specifically, the financial impacts of the COVID pandemic and the uncertainties associated with planning services in the wake of that pandemic as well were challenges. A quick run through on property taxation in Iowa. It's categorized into classes, and they're listed here. Multi-residential was a new one back in FY17, but each one is treated a little differently in terms of a rollback calculation. Some are linked, and there's a growth limitation imposed such that there aren't dramatic tax shifts between classes, or at least that's the intent of the rules and the process that are put in place statewide. And then there's a reduction due to that growth limitation that's called the rollback, which again is a statewide calculation by property class. So the changes to the rollback figures by class of property between FY21, the current fiscal year, and 22, the year we're budgeting for, are shown on this slide. So you can see residential property tax increased slightly. You see a positive number in the change column in terms of the rollback. And multi-residential continues to go down. It stair steps down per the state code until it reaches basically the residential rate, and then they're considered the same. Commercial and industrial were unchanged, and ag was up a little bit. So a residential property assessed at $100,000 would have a taxable value in FY22 of $56,409. That's up slightly, about $1,335 from FY21's taxable value. So with the same city property tax rate, the property tax to be paid by that example household to the city increases by $19.11 for the year. And on this slide, we have a commercial property example. So if a commercial property was assessed at $500,000, the taxable value is $450,000. That's unchanged year over year. And the tax rate would be the same. So the property tax paid to the city would remain the same as the current fiscal year. So in the legislation that created the multi-residential category, there were also changes to commercial and industrial to that rollback. It was reduced from 100% to 90% over 2 years. And then state replacement payments to local governments were put in place. And those were not provided with a sunset at the time, and they're often called the backfill. They replace important property tax revenues to local governments that are used for all kinds of purposes in the general fund, the debt service fund, the TIF, and the employee benefits fund. They fund such things as police, fire, park and rec, payments on projects, things like that. The components of the city tax levy, property tax levy, are the general levy for Coralville, the tort or insurance levy, transit, trust and agency or employee benefits, and debt service levy. And here's a breakout of how those tax rates in dollars per thousand of taxable value work in FY21, the current year, and 22, the year we're budgeting for. So this is the proposal. You'll notice at the bottom that they, in both years, the tax rate is the same dollar amount. There's a little wiggle between a couple of the levies, but essentially it's the same. And then we have on the next slide a breakup or a presentation of the total property tax rate for a typical Coralville household. So in blue, you see the city's tax rate, and then the other rows are tax rates of other local governments like the county, Kirkwood Community College, the school district, the state and Ag Extension Office each have very small portions of the tax bill as well. And then this is a pie chart depiction of that. So you can see basically of every tax dollar a property owner sends to the county, it gets divided up this way. And it's about 40% for the schools, 39% for the city, and 17% for the county. And then there's some smaller pieces as well. There was a new budget or step to the budgeting process introduced last year, about a year ago this time. And so this is the second year we're doing it, but I think it bears a little explanation. It's commonly referred to as the max levy or maximum property tax levy notice and hearing process. There's some things that the notice for that hearing that's already been held, it was held at the last meeting, things that notice says and does not say. So that notice, which I'll show you in a moment on the next slide, shows the current year tax rates in dollars and the proposed 22 tax rate in dollars. In the middle, it shows what the 22 tax rate would be if the same dollars were requested. So I'll go to that. So you can see of the three columns, the one on the left is the current fiscal year, and it shows at the bottom a total tax levy number of 17 plus million and $12.19. Mm-hmm. But you just heard me a little bit ago talk about a $14.31 levy. This notice that the state formulated does not include all the property tax levies. There are some that are left out, and we can't just add them. We have to follow what the code says. So in the far right column is what the city is proposing, and in the middle is what the tax rate would be if the city received the same dollars as last year. So back to what it shows and doesn't show. We talked about what it shows. What it does not show is the actual total current or proposed tax rate that taxpayers will see on their bills. And it does not actually intend to do that, but don't be tripped up by that. So the general fund is an important fund in terms of the city. It's the city's chief operating fund. Various sources of revenue flow into the general fund. Property taxes, hotel motel taxes, that's actually a category that's, as the hospitality industry has been hit by COVID, that we've seen a lot of changes. Permits and licenses like building permits, rental housing inspection costs and permits. Use of money and property is an old-fashioned way of talking about interest and rental income. Intergovernmental, so that's grants from the state or federal governments or locally here, 28E agreements with other cities or the county. charges for services like rec programs, and then other financing sources would be borrowings or transfers between funds. So the estimated revenue for fiscal year 22 for the general fund is $27.9 million, which is actually about a 4.7% decrease from the original budget passed for the current fiscal year. Now that budget has been decreased already by the City Council in terms of a budget amendment, but this is just a straight up original budget for FY21 to FY22 original budget comparison. And the general fund revenues and expenditures support public safety, health, social services, culture and recreation, community and economic development, general government, and then saving for contingencies and unexpected items. The various revenues for the general fund are detailed on this slide in terms of the FY22 budget dollar amounts and their percentage of the makeup of the general fund. So you can see property taxes and charges for services and transfers are some of the bigger ones. And the reason transfers are number 2 up there, there's some big, large property tax amounts that have to be accounted for in a special fund, and then they're just transferred to the general fund for use. So that's why that sort of jumps out at the top. And then hotel motel tax is at 7%, sort of around the middle of the pack. That's more traditionally in past years 10 or 11% for the city of Coralville, but again, that's a change we've seen recently. And then we have the general fund departmental budgets depicted on the next slide in percentage and dollar terms. So you see park and rec, police, fire, animal control. Some of those are near the top. We have some special revenue funds. The road use tax fund, or streets department, is one of those. The state road use tax is allocated to cities by the state based on the last official census, which at this moment is the 2010 census. When the 2020 census is available, the state will begin distributions based on those figures. But we're projecting or estimating $128 per capita based on the 2010 census. So we budgeted with those figures, and that produces about $2.566 million of estimated revenues for that department. In terms of the enterprise funds, we have, as I mentioned earlier on, no change this year in the rate structure for any city services. So transit fares, water, wastewater, stormwater, solid waste or trash and recycling, and parking as well. The proposed FY22 budget includes the replacement of a paratransit bus. So that's one of the vehicles utilized by Seats in terms of serving Coralville residents with paratransit, fire protection equipment, and some refurnishing of items in the fire stations. In streets, equipment for street repair, patching, and sealing, and replacement of a 12-year-old snowplow, and repair work on several city streets. In solid waste and recycling, replacement of a 20-year-old garbage truck. And in the library, AV viewing station upgrades in the children's and adult areas, and an additional public laptop computers. An overview of the enterprise fund is on this slide with the sources and uses of funds, or revenues and expenditures shown for each one. So what you'll see is generally the left side column is higher than the right side column, actually equal to or higher in every case on this slide, and that's as it should be. So a little bit about timing or process and additional information. The Quarterly Connection magazine is now available on Coralville.org. It'll arrive in mailboxes this week and contains an article on the budget. Goes through some of this information and other information as well. The next regular council meeting is on March 9th at 6:30 p.m., and that will be the budget hearing. On March 23rd, at the regular city council meeting, we would anticipate final adoption, and then we file the budget with the auditor and the state prior to March 31st. And it's effective July 1 through the following June 30th. And if you'd like an overview of the budget, it's available at coralville.org/finance/budget, or in paper copy at City Hall or the library, again in the Connection magazine, and we'll have a video posted on Coral Vision as well.